Well, it was another packed week in Quebec politics. So far, 2 people have officially launched bids for CAQ leadership to replace François Legault, Christine Frechette, and Bernard Drainville. Political analyst Raphael Melancon joins us once again. Hi, Raphael.
Good evening, Angela.
So, Raphael, looking at Drainville and Frechette, how do they shape up as candidates in your view?
Well, you know, Angela, there are mainly 2 factions within the CAQ as a party. On one side, you have the economy faction, which is certainly going to go for the majority, at least, on Christine Frechette's side. Christine Frechette, who is, of course, as we know, until very soon, she is the Minister of the Economy. She replaced Pierre Fitzgibbon when he left the office. She's also a relatively new face in politics. She joined the CAQ in 2022, so she's not closely associated to François Legault and his legacy. So it's probably a good thing for her in the current circumstances where people are seeking change in Quebec. Whereas on the other side, you have the other faction, which is the more nationalist/identity faction, which is certainly closer ideologically speaking to Bernard Drainville. So Bernard Drainville, who, as we know, is a former PQ minister, the father of the infamous Charte des Valeurs, as we know, under the Marois government. And he is certainly the most nationalist of both candidates. Even Christine Frechette, who also worked for Jean-François Lisée when he was a minister under the Marois government, left the PQ at the time because she was against Drainville's project for the Charte des Valeurs. So it gives us already a good feel of the position of those 2 candidates, meaning that Frechette is probably a softer nationalist, whereas Drainville is a much more hardliner on nationalism and identity.
And do you expect that we're going to see others throw their hat into the ring?
Very good question. So far, we have only 2 candidates. It seems like it's shaping up right now like a 2-way race. And to me, it's quite clear if you look just at the support that both candidates have received so far. Christine Frechette is clearly leading right now. She's got more than 12 people supporting her within the party, so 12 MNAs or ministers, whereas Drainville has much less. She had a great event today to launch her campaign. She was surrounded by her colleagues. So it seems to me like she's the main contender right now. If we compare that race to the race the Liberals had just a year ago, Drainville looks like to me like a Chrystia Freeland, whereas on the other side, Christine Frechette looks like she's the leader. She's the Mark Carney of that race.
Okay, let's turn to the PQ now. The party held its convention this weekend on the heels of Prime Minister Mark Carney's call for unity while he was in Quebec City. Do you think Carney's comments will help or hurt the PQ?
I don't think it's going to change much, to be honest with you, because on one side, Carney spoke to people who were already convinced they were Federalist and people who vote for him. And on the other side, Paul Saint-Pierre also preaches to an already convinced audience. So, of course, to me, it won't change much. And I would say the comments regarding the Battle of the Plains of Abraham and the interpretation that Mark Carney did of Canadian history since the conquest, I acknowledge that the PQ is not satisfied, is not happy with it. But in the end, if Paul Saint-Pierre wants to convince the majority of Quebecers to vote for sovereignty, people don't vote for what happened 250 years ago. People vote for the future, and this is what you need to inspire Quebecers about. You have to present them with a solid project for the future of Quebec as a sovereign country if you want to convince the majority at some point.
So in that vein, what did you make of Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon's speech today?
I thought it was funny that he said that, speaking of Mark Carney, he said that Carney officially launched the campaign for a 3rd referendum today. So interesting to see that he's starting from that to try and build up some momentum around sovereignty. But in the end, let's face it, Paul Saint-Pierre has been talking about sovereignty for already a few months now. He's been unveiling progressively chapters of his blue book on sovereignty, the Livre Bleu sur la souveraineté. And so far, the needle in the polls isn't moving at all in favor of sovereignty. It's still around 35%. And I would say the big challenge here for the PQ specifically is that even 28%, a Palace data poll just 3 days ago showed that 28% of PQ voters don't want to hear about sovereignty. So that's people that could also leave the party in an eventual election. If ever the ballot question in the next general election is about sovereignty and a 3rd referendum, that that's people who could flee the PQ and go back potentially either to the CAQ or even find refuge with the Liberals. And let's not forget that Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon is going to be facing two new leaders, both on the Liberal side and the CAQ side. So the whole political landscape could be changing by the spring. And I think the fortunes of the PQ might change as well, because right now a lot of people are thinking about voting for the PQ because they don't see any alternative among other parties, but that could change pretty soon.
It's never a dull moment in Quebec politics. Raphael Melancon, thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure, Angela. See you next time.